There we go. Oh man, that's a nice fish, guys. Whoa. That's a big fish. Get it out of the weeds. Get it out of the weeds. On the other side if we can. There we go. Get it out of those weeds. All right, guys, got the two man out again. Bob's up in South Dakota fishing with his brother. This is one of the state lakes that flooded. A little hard to get into with our big boat, so I thought this would be a perfect opportunity for me to bring the two man and try that. Oh, bam, there we go. Found one. Oh, geez. Where are you going? Oh, man. There's a lot of jumping to that fish. There we go, guys. Woo! Found one with a worm, kind of down deep. I let it go down there a ways. That's a nice fish right there. Nice fish. Yeah, hold still. All right, got the hook out. Hey, nice fish, good fish, first one of the day. Probably 2 pounds, give or take a little bit. 16 inches maybe. Didn't bring my, oh, wait a minute. Let's see what I got here. Roughly, yeah, between 15 and 16. All right, nice fish. There we go. Oh man, that's a nice fish, guys. Whoa. That's a big fish. Get it out of the weeds. Get it out of the weeds. Oh man. It's got me here in the weeds and the trees, and I play heck trying to do something with it. Oh, let's get around the other side if we can. There we go. Get out of those weeds. Whoa! Woo! Look at that fish. Man! Wow! That's what I'm looking for. On that worm right off the vegetation. There we go, guys. Wow, that is a nice fish. Gonna see if I can get a measurement and a weight. We'll get back to it. All right, guys, 20.5 inches, 4.6 pounds. That's what we came for. That is a nice fish. Woo! All right. Good girl, thank you. And away she goes. All right, what are we doing that on? Let me get the weeds out of it, the grass and weeds. So I told you I'm fishing the edge of the vegetation. Whew. Never go, just using a, let's see, a Yum Dingers. That's what the worms I'm using, the Yum Dinger. I got it on a weighted swim bait hook. That's what we're putting them on. Let's go find some more. Let's talk a little bit about how that first fish helped me catch the second fish. Now I came in this morning and I started working right up on the bank. I figured the fish are going to be shallow. That's where we're going to work. I took the worm, weighted hook, thought it'd be perfect working along that shallow edge. And I couldn't find anything. Now, I was bringing it back. There's vegetation out maybe, 6, 8, 10 feet from the bank. And you can see it just underwater. So I was working it through that. And the first one was by accident. Because I brought it back through that. I stopped making the motor adjustment right after the worm got through the vegetation. And when doing that, He dropped off on the edge of the vegetation while I was messing with the motor, and the fish picked it up while it was on the drop after getting past the edge of the vegetation. Taking note of that, now I started fishing that way. I'd throw it up, bring it through that vegetation. I wasn't so much worried about the bank anymore. Now I wanted to get to the edge of vegetation and then let that lure drop. And that's pretty much where we stood with the big one. We were just out past the edge when that big girl took it. So you gotta kind of sometimes pay attention to how you catch the first one, because it may mean you have a better shot at catching the second one. Oh, there we go. Oh, that was deep with a jig. Oh, there we go. Nice fish. Woo. All right, second time around. So I came back with a jig this time. Probably about 15 inch. Give or take let's call that 14. Show the camera this one. How's that? You probably see it better with that one, can't you? Guys, we're gonna take a minute. Let's talk about lure selection, what worked and why it worked. First, I knew the water here was fairly clear, so I decided the worm I was gonna go with was the watermelon red flake. I want the real lighter natural colors in clear water. Turned out the water is a lot clearer than I thought. When I went with a jig, again, I was doing worm, I was doing jig, they're different, but the jig, you can see I'm doing it in the same color. Had a little orange, but not too bad. This is when I found out really how clear the water was. I've got about a 5-foot leader, and I could hold this down to where my braid was touching the water. I could still see my jig. So I had 5 foot of visibility. That also is part of the reason why they were down deep. You got the sun shining. I'm working around the timber and offer some shade. But the key was keep the colors the same. But I also needed something that would get deeper. Now, this was on a 1/8 ounce weighted swim bait hook. Now, it took a little time and I tried this. Here's a tube. There's a tube with a 1/8 ounce swim bait hook, same thing, same colors. I couldn't get anything with it. And the reason is the tube wouldn't sink as fast as the worm would sink. So I could get the worm down quickly. I couldn't get the tube down quickly. So even though it was the same colors, same principle, it wasn't successful. It's the worm and the jig. They both had two things in common. They had the same color and they both got down deep, and I needed both of that because of the real clear water. There we go. Got him out of the log with a jig. There we go. He was right under that log, right? Oops, where he's supposed to be. Hang on to get a hold of him here. Tiny fish. Hold still. There we go. There we got him. On the jig, right in by a log, right where I thought he'd be. Right in by that log right there. All right. That one didn't let it get very deep, but he was probably just under the log in the shade. That's why. Work the other end of the log. Let's work this end. There we go, there's another one on the other side of the log. Yeah, he was on the other side of the log. All right. Got to cover both sides of the logs, guys. All right, there we go. Let's go with the jig. Let's turn around because there's a part of the log I still haven't hit yet. There we go. Oh man, he took it. Give it another chance at it, buddy. or your bigger brother, bigger sister, that would be okay too. Oh, dang. There, we got it, third time around. Third time it took to get that fish, but we got it. Yeah, it took me 3 shots. Missed you the first 2, got you the third one. All right, there we go. Right off the end of that log. He took it first, but I missed. Second, missed. Third time's charm. Third time's charm, I like that. Well guys, we're gonna call it good. Not a bad day. Got about a half dozen fish. Bigger than what we've been catching lately, a lot of dinks, but today we got one of the big ones, so that's what we've been looking for. Another example with a 2-man bass boat got me into a lake that you're just not going to get in with a big boat. With the flooding, the ramp the way it is, I could still get in with this. I caught some fish. Thanks for sticking with me. Subscribe to the channel if you would. Hope to see you again real soon.